Fundamentally, life is not knowing. Practice is not knowing. And as needed, as appropriate and skillful right this moment, practice includes seeing where, when, how knowing manifests for us as our actions, as our beliefs, as our reactions, how knowing manifests as self-centeredness, viscerally, mentally, physically, manifests as caught up in, holding to. When we are caught up in knowing, in the midst of this ongoing changing life, anywhere, anyhow, if we are present, sometimes we can see, sense self arising, see and sense other arising, notice and sense how harming and suffering follow along with these. There's no need for you to believe what I say. Simply be present. Be your life and notice your life. Be, face, embrace this not knowing moment that you, that life is. It's valuable and important in our life, in our practice, to notice how, where, when unsatisfactoriness arises, how suffering arises, entangling arises, whether in everyday life, with others, in sitting. Being aware of this unsatisfactoriness, this suffering arising, is the opportunity to be just this moment. The experiential opportunity to forget self, to forget the self story, to be self-forgetting self, self-forgetting the self-sense, the self-reaction habits. This is being emptiness of this moment, emptiness of 5 conditions, as a Heart Sutra says. Being this moment conditions as is, this moment as is. It's not distant, far away, or mysterious. And as I've talked recently of one of the practices that Joko encouraged for this, be thanks. Thanks for everything. Thanks for this moment. Being, having no complaints, even in the midst of complaining. If I say this differently, we can notice how and where we refuse and resist experiencing this moment, seeing clearly how and what difficulties are arising out of our knowing. We resist this. We can see, if we're sensitive and paying attention, how out of holding to forms, difficulties arise. Out of holding to self-stories, which is what self-centeredness is, self-beliefs, holding to what we know and believe and unfortunately often what we react from, how we react from our so-called knowing, and how this leads to missing this moment right now, missing this experience, missing what we cannot miss. We can't miss this, and yet we can blind ourselves to this life moment, to this experiencing. Do we notice when harm, suffering arise, how the perniciousness, if I use that kind of word, of holding to and acting out of what we believe happens? How and what happens when we know, when we are sure of what is so? How we miss this moment, miss what we cannot miss this experiencing that we are, and yet we can miss it. If we live this unexamined self-dream, self-other dream, and all the poisons that grow out of that, even missing what is so, missing these poisons that are never self, that are not self-poisons, and yet we imbibe them, we live them, we further them and nurture them. Practice zazening in various forms, formal sitting and other times, supports us and requires us to be, see, face this moment as is. This sometimes means requiring what we might, and it often do, attempt to avoid and deny. So a useful reminder is to notice and respond skillfully when we sense that we don't want to be this moment as is, which is often sensing that we are getting angry or blaming about this moment, this other, this past, this story. How we're doing what we know, so to speak, have experienced, does not work with ourselves or with others. So when we notice we want to hold and cling to our knowing, to our belief reactions, when habits and embodiments of those are what we want, despite the fact that we've noticed that it doesn't aid us in being satisfied and joyous in life, then that's our opportunity of being this aliveness in as this moment, as this ongoing changing that is life, this moment, this life of myriad beings universe that is exactly who we are. Thank you.